Silent rails. The Silver Spirit groaned like an old dog settling into its final bed, the low whine of its brakes echoing off the grimy walls of Penn Station. I stood there, duffel slung over one shoulder, ticket crushed between two fingers like a cigarette I couldn't bring myself to light. The tide of humanity moved around me. Businessmen jabbing at phones, tourists snapping photos of nothing, homeless men mumbling to indifferent walls. No one saw me. Maybe that's how I liked it now. I boarded in silence. No waving goodbyes. No promises to write. Just me and the hum of a train that didn't care where I was going. Roomette 4B was barely bigger than a coffin. A narrow bed folded down from the wall. A window, smeared by years of rain and regret, stared back at me like an eye with cataracts. Perfect. I dropped the duffel and slumped against the seat. Outside, the city bled into motion. Gray on gray, crumbling brick and steel skyscrapers shrinking into a haze of winter air. New York falling away was like watching an argument you never finished drift out of earshot. Good riddance. My body ached in places I didn't talk about. Scars across my ribs and knees whispered to me whenever I moved wrong. Another gift from another war America forgot about. I pulled the curtain shut and let the world slip past. Day one on the rails unfolded in a kind of blurred monotony. Amtrak coffee, bitter enough to strip paint. A greasy burger that tasted like regret and freezer burn. An old woman knitting by the observation windows, humming tunelessly. And them. At first it was just flickers. A woman in a blood-red jacket strolling the narrow corridor too often, her sharp eyes cutting quick glances into the compartments she passed. A man in a battered baseball cap, pretending to nap, but sitting too straight, too alert behind mirrored sunglasses. The thick-set guy, built like a pit bull, parking himself at the very back of the dining car, sipping endless black coffee, face like poured cement. Coincidence? Maybe once. Twice? Maybe 3 times? I knew better. In another life, I'd spent months surveilling dirty marketplaces and places Americans couldn't find on maps. These movements weren't random. They were a dance. The train thrummed under my feet, steady as a heartbeat, and underneath it something else began to hum, a tension I couldn't yet name. That night, the train rocked gently, a lullaby of steel on steel. I lay staring at the ceiling, the narrow cot barely wide enough for my frame, hands folded on my chest like I was already in a coffin. Sarah's face floated in the darkness. The way her smile used to break wide across a room when she spotted me home early. The way it cracked and faded the longer I stayed away. Deployments stacking up like unpaid bills. I can't love a man who's only half here, John. Her voice again, so tired, so final. I squeezed my eyes shut. It didn't matter now. Papers signed, names split. But the ache still lived somewhere deep, somewhere marrow deep. I drifted somewhere between sleep and memory, the train shuddering through empty farmland, the world outside a blur of snow and shadows. The second morning dawned gray, the landscape outside the windows stretching into endless empty fields dusted with frost. Something was wrong. The real conductor, an older man I'd seen on day one, thick mustache and easy laugh, was nowhere to be found. In his place stood a woman in an ill-fitting uniform, the badge crooked on her chest, her smile glued too tight to her face. I caught the flicker of panic behind her eyes when a passenger asked about a stop we were supposed to make, a stop we had blown right through. The red jacket woman loitered near the dining car, pretending to flip through a newspaper she barely glanced at. The baseball cap man lingered near the luggage compartments. The thick-set guy started blocking off access to the observation deck under the excuse of maintenance issues. And then a new face, scruffy beard, torn jeans, heavy boots, moving with too much purpose between the sleeper cars. 5 at least, maybe more. Not amateurs, not thrill-seekers. Professionals, focused, quiet. I felt it in the pit of my gut, that old cold crawl of instincts firing awake. Someone was taking this train, and they didn't want the passengers to know it. Not yet. I weighed my options. I could sit tight, hope whatever their plan was didn't involve body bags. But I knew better. The world didn't run on hope. It ran on force. By lunch, I had cased the train, memorized exits, crawl spaces, maintenance hatches, found a kitchen utility closet with enough sharp metal to outfit a medieval siege. A plan began to stitch itself together in my head. Slow, clumsy, desperate. One at a time, quiet. Start picking them off before they realized they had a problem. Ratty Beard made the first mistake. He lingered too long near the back luggage compartment, checking something under the floorboards. I slipped in behind him, silent as a wraith. One hand clamped over his mouth. The other drove the hilt of a fire extinguisher into his kidney. He buckled. I wrapped a cord around his wrists, gagged him with a cleaning rag, and shoved him into an empty supply closet behind the snack car. One down. Baseball cap came next. He caught me stalking the corridors, eyes narrowed. We both moved at once. Me toward a maintenance alcove, him toward his waistband. Gun. Too slow. I slammed a mop bucket into his knees, yanked the gun free, and drove my elbow into his temple, hard enough to bounce his head off the wall. 2 down. My heart hammered, every nerve singing. This was going to get messy, fast. By sunset, the wolves knew one of their own was missing. The red jacket woman called an emergency meeting, hushed words and frantic gestures near the engine car. The fake conductor tried to soothe passengers with fake smiles, rerouting them to the lounge car with promises of free drinks. My hands itched for the pistol tucked into the back of my pants, but pulling it now would only spook the entire train. Panic 200 souls into a stampede. I needed a surgical strike. I needed to end it at the source. The engine room door was supposed to be locked, and it wasn't. It hung half ajar, the security latch sheared off. Inside, the real conductor slumped against the wall, battered, breathing shallow. The controls had been tampered with, rerouted to accelerate the train beyond safe limits. The hijacker's plan was sickeningly simple: derail the Silver Spirit at Union Station, California. A rolling massacre, a statement written in blood and broken steel. I didn't give myself time to think. The red jacket woman spotted me first, her pistol already half raised. I lunged sideways as the first bullet chewed a crater in the metal behind me. Gunshots cracked like whips inside the narrow space. I tackled her waist, drove us both into the wall. Her breath exploded out in a sharp grunt. The fake conductor, younger, wiry, charged in swinging a crowbar. I caught it on my forearm. Pain flashed white-hot and countered with a headbutt that left us both staggering. The woman in maintenance overalls scrambled for the shotgun left on a control panel. I dove low, snatching the heavy iron wrench from the floor and flung it end over end into her ribs. She collapsed with a scream. 2 minutes of hell. 2 minutes that stretched into forever. When the dust settled, I stood panting over a pile of unconscious or groaning bodies. Blood leaked down my arm, my ribs throbbed like broken drums. My mouth tasted copper. But the train? Still rolling, still alive. And so was I. The FBI met us at the station. Dozens of agents stormed the train, hauling the hijackers out in cuffs, dragging them into black SUVs like bags of trash. Passengers cried, hugged, cursed. Some wanted to know my name, some called me a hero. I ignored them. I didn't do it for medals. I didn't do it for recognition. I did it because a little boy on that train deserved to grow up. Because a tired mother deserved to reach her new life. Because somewhere in the tangled wreckage of my heart, I still believed people were worth saving. Even if I wasn't. I sat for a long time in the rental car outside my parents' house, engine ticking as it cooled. The porch light burned warm and steady against the early evening gloom. Inside, I could see my mother bustling through the living room, humming something tuneless and familiar. I thought about turning the car around, about disappearing again. It would have been easy, but I was done running. I climbed out, feeling every bruise, every scar, every mile. I walked up the driveway slow, each step heavier than the last. When I knocked, the door flew open. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt arms around me. Felt the warmth of home. Heard a voice break with tears. "Johnny, you're home." I closed my eyes, letting it wash over me.